Okay, now this time I'll tell you a story about a fisherman and his wife. Long ago, in a country by the sea, an old fisherman lived with his wife in a shack that was not much better than a pig pen. Every day he went out to fish, hoping that he'd at least catch their dinner. One day, a strange thing happened. He caught a huge fish, which he was very happy to catch, but as soon as he brought the big fish alongside the boat, it started talking. Imagine that, a talking fish. "Please, fisherman, don't kill me," he said. "I'm not really a fish, but I'm a prince under the spell of an evil witch." Well, of course, the fisherman couldn't knowingly cook and eat an enchanted prince, so he let him go. When he got home that night, his wife said to him, "You didn't even catch dinner for us tonight." "Well, yes and no," he replied. "I caught a giant fish, but it turned out to be a bewitched prince, so I threw him back." "And you didn't even ask as much as a wish from him?" she said. "I mean, couldn't you have asked that we have someplace better than an old shack to live in?" Well, her husband was not as unhappy with their life, although they certainly were poor, and he just hadn't thought of it. But he did feel badly for his wife, and the fish prince did owe him. So the next day he went to the same spot and called to the fish. "My wife told me to ask you for a wish," he said. "Of course," said the fish. "Anything you ask." "Well, we'd like a nicer place to live because our home is a very old shack." "Go back and see," said the fish. "It's done." And so the husband went home and found his wife in a beautiful home instead of a pig pen. Oh, naturally, she was happier, but it really wasn't enough. "If we can have this," she moaned, "why not a palace?" And her husband, who was not very good at saying no to her, went again to the fish. "My wife is very grateful," the old fisherman lied, "but she would like just once to live in a palace." "Go home," said the fish. "It's done." The fisherman arrived where his elegant home had been, and in its place, many times bigger, stood a palace with his wife standing at the gates. "Now are you satisfied?" he asked. "Oh, yes," she said. "This is all I could ask for." Well, unfortunately, she didn't feel that way for long, but gave in to a very human but dangerous feeling called greed. One day she woke up and asked her husband to go back to the fish. "But what more could you want?" said the man, who thought life in the palace was just fine. "I want some power," she said. "I want to be queen." "What now?" said the fish, somewhat annoyed to see the fisherman had returned. "My wife wants to feel what it's like to have some power," he said, rather embarrassed. "Can you make her queen?" "And so it is done," the fish said again, and he dove beneath the waves. Well, no sooner was the woman a queen than she wanted to be an empress. The greed had gotten control of her, which is often the case with humans, and her husband was forced to go back to the fish because, after all, she was queen. "I'm truly sorry," said the fisherman, "but my wife has yet another request, and I can't satisfy her until I ask it." "And," said the fish in a very unhappy tone. "She wants very badly to be empress," said the man, and his head dropped in shame as he said it. "Go home now," said the fish. "Enough is enough." And when the man returned to where the castle had stood, he saw nothing there but a shack, no better than a pig pen. And there they stayed until the end of their days. 'Cause you see, what is won by greed is only temporary.